Okay, without further ado, let's bring in our student Kuro Kiran. Okay, Kuro, could you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got started with art?
Well, I'm used to, at least. More recently, I've been recovering from medical stuff, but I used to work for a games company, and I worked for a company that mostly did localization from anime or Japanese styled games. Then I started working on my art again after stopping. My original start with art was back in middle school, mostly from people telling me that I needed to do something while waiting for a test to be over. They handed me a piece of paper, told me to start drawing. I pulled out a manga, started seeing if I could mimic the characters. First time I learned I could actually draw something more in a stick figure. And that's honestly how I did start to get into art from there.
So you basically started like how all artists start, like from copying manga and like images or illustrations that you found interesting. I'm sure a lot of people in the comments like relate to that, definitely. I think you mentioned in one of our previous like discussions, like we interviewed you prior to this, you mentioned that you first got into art in middle school, right? So could you like give us a brief rundown of how that happened?
Well, like I'd said, I mostly had been told to start doing stuff while waiting for a class to end. We weren't allowed to read books. We weren't allowed to, like, move around. We had to just wait for everyone to finish up their tests.
Yeah.
They did allow me to draw, though. So a
Yeah.
big thing was I would start just trying to remember how stuff looked from manga and whatnot. Easy things, eyes. I had entire pages filled with just different eye expressions, and then I tried to move on from there. It didn't work the best, but I kept doing that and doing that until eventually I learned how to mimic something I saw. A lot of
Yeah.
times I would see a character, try to mimic them, put them on a paper. Felt really good for a while to learn how to draw. Then moving to my own characters, I learned that doesn't always work.
So you've learned like drawing from references hasn't translated well to like creating your own original characters, you mean?
It worked well for knowing how to get some stuff done, but
Yeah.
the biggest thing is I never knew how to actually form the shapes I saw. I knew how to mimic a shape, but I had no idea what it formed from. So I could see a
Mm,
circle and mimic how a circle looked on a screen, but then
yeah.
I go to draw a circle and my circle looks like it's been put through a tube.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to copy something and trying to apply it on your own with your own like designs and with your own like original illustrations, I guess, would be a challenge for any beginner. This is like your first submission back in October. So, as far I think this is one of your original characters, if I'm correct.
Yes. This was from when I had started trying to branch out to draw my own characters. I had drawn her multiple times at this point, and that's
Mm,
also when I first found the course. I was trying to learn how to shade properly, and I had found one of the videos on how to shade from your course. So
yeah.
when I came into the course, I figured I'd finish up the drawing I was already trying to work on, which was this one.
That's good that like our hopefully our video helped you a bit with shading this. So that's good that you found us. And this is like one of your homeworks from back in November 2023 where you were copying from references. And like as you can see like guys, like he's managed to like copy some like pretty intricate, pretty detailed illustrations, and they're actually pretty good. And here's more from his copying from references homework back in November 2023. So, yeah, copying is definitely something that could definitely help you guys with learning. Could start you guys off with learning how to draw. So, yeah, and this is another homework where Kuro actually drew anime faces on his own without any references. So, this was back in November 2023. Yeah, you mentioned that you faced some health challenges lately, and I remember that you've had to take some breaks in between some coursework because of complications with your eyes. So, how is your condition currently?
Unfortunately, while my condition is much more improved from when it first started, I am still in recovery.
Mm.
I actually have to go and get a surgery soon to try and fix the condition. Every time
Mm.
they seal up the problem, it immediately goes back like a month or two later, back to bleeding in my eye.
Mm.
So they need to just go out and remove the bad section of the eye. So that's what I'm looking forward to in the next few weeks.
So we'll all be like hoping and praying for your smooth surgery, Kuro. It's unfortunate, but we're glad that you're gonna get it checked out soon enough. So, and even so, I think it's amazing that in spite of all these challenges, you're still very diligent with your art, and we've seen how much progress you've made since starting last year. So, could you like tell us why you kept going? Why you're still determined to like continue with the course and keep improving with your art, even with your health struggles?
Well, part of it is my health. It's something I could do that would allow me to keep working towards something, because after my health started being a problem, I couldn't work anymore because my job wouldn't let me keep the job after my eyes kept having issues. I was on contract, my contract ended. I can understand why they didn't rehire me at the time. And also, just I wanted to do this for a long time, and I figured I have time. I might as well use that time towards something. But it also just gave me something to keep looking forward to. As long as I can keep improving on this, I know that my eyes are getting better.
That's great. That's great. It's really important to keep a positive mindset by all of the struggles that you're currently facing through life. I mean, not just for Kuro, but I think that applies to everyone who's like struggling with something in their life right now. I mean, if you have something that brings joy in your life or like motivates you to still keep going despite everything, then keep at it. Definitely. And I think a lot of us watching can relate and would feel inspired to keep going despite challenges. So, Kuro, maybe you can share some tips on how you kept on, how you pressed on, and tell us how you overcame art blocks or times when it felt a bit difficult to draw.
Well, a big thing that came from it is whenever I did feel the art blocks, a big thing is I'd always go and look at other art I enjoyed or other mediums to try and find something I wanted. I might go back to just looking at an expression, trying to copy the expression. Or another thing with the course is I'd look at other people in the course, see what they're doing, and just try and get some nice, see if they're improving. I look at them, they're doing good. I figured, okay, might as well try and work a little bit towards it myself. No point in just letting yourself just not enjoy life while you're doing something such as having recovery and whatnot, or just not having a good time with your health. Find something to enjoy. And drawing was something I was able to enjoy, even if it did have a bit of struggle trying to get it done.
I hope you guys remember what Kuro just said, guys, and like keep it in your mind, keep it in your heart. Yeah, if drawing is something you enjoy, then sound off in the chat. Do you guys, I know you're all aspiring manga artists, but like have you managed to like keep that passion alive? Do you still love drawing? So it's that because that's important if you want to keep going, if you want to like really pursue being a manga artist. So guys, let us know. The thing is, when we talk to a lot of aspiring manga artists, it's that they mentioned that at some point they just gave up because like drawing wasn't something that they enjoyed anymore, especially as they were like learning the hard stuff like fundamentals or anatomy. It was just something that they didn't enjoy because they found it so difficult. So yeah, when you're going through this journey and when you're trying to improve your skills, it's important to like keep that passion alive and find some joy in learning even the hard stuff. So moving on, this is actually one of your submissions from your for the Christmas party event back in December, and I think this is like one of my favorite submissions of yours because one, I'm a huge Jujutsu Kaisen fan, and like I really like this fan art of yours. Moving on, could you tell us about how you learned art before joining our program, and what were the things you tried to learn by yourself?
The biggest way I'd learn art is I'd find something I wanted to learn at a point. So if I wanted to learn a hairstyle, I would find that hairstyle or at least something similar to it, put it on a piece of paper, try to copy the character, and then I would move on. Same with hair, body poses and whatnot, though body was definitely one that I struggled with the most. After a while, I wanted to start drawing my own characters, and that I found very hard even back in middle school, and then even more harder when I came back to it after almost a decade. And when I would go to draw a character, I'd find multiple references from different characters, different people to try and make the character I wanted to do. And then I'd try to find a pose, put it in, put the character's face, the hair, and then the clothes, and then try to actually form the character from that. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it doesn't. And my biggest thing as I found is I could mimic what I saw in a character, but the moment that the character needed to be at a different angle, or if I needed
Mm,
to move them around, I had no idea where the base of that was. I had no idea how the skeleton moved. I had no idea how to actually change
mm,
an angle on something. And in most
yeah.
cases, I can't find a real item to just turn around. Like if I want to go and draw a bow, for example, I don't own a bow, and especially don't own a Yumi bow that my character might use, for example.
Yeah,
And
that's definitely
that's
something that a lot of artists can relate to, like being able to consistently draw their characters in different scenarios and in different poses. It's definitely something a lot of people struggle with. Other than that, like, do you feel like you've improved at least with that, or are you still like working on it? Or are you
well,
still like you?
actually, the Christmas
Yeah,
picture you got up is a good example. I
yeah.
didn't use any common like poses for this. I pulled up a picture of Gojo, and I cannot remember the name of the volcano person right now,
Yeah,
but
it's fine. Volcano guy.
and I just I thought of a pose I wanted, and I used some of the stuff I had learned in the course already to apply it here. I
Yeah.
had no reference of this pose or the outfit other than I mean, I have the outfit of JoJo's, but not the little sweater. And it was able to actually create something that before this would have taken me weeks to figure out how to do. I was
Mm.
able to do this in about 2 days, and that was a lot better than that, and it looks very decent.
That's great. Okay. And it's great that you've managed to like learn how to be able to experiment with drawing characters more and not just be restricted with what you can copy and what you could mimic. So that's great that you've learned that so far with our course. And also that leads me to like my next question, like why did you choose to join our program and like how is it different from learning things on your own?
The reason I chose to join is while I could follow tutorial videos and learn quite a bit from them online, I can't ask the person making the video a question. And also, when I have a few friends that do art, but they always do art of different types, and I'd ask them a
Mm,
question, and it just doesn't translate, doesn't apply. Being in the
mm,
course, I figured I would at least be able to ask teachers or other students how to, well, do something. I can ask them something, and they're going to be in the same style of drawing as me, so they can actually give me an answer that's more relevant.
and like with learning things on your own, like I'm just curious, like what shows or what series inspired you the most actually while you were self-learning?
That's actually a tough one because drawing wise, I've pulled from so many different mediums. I wouldn't say a specific one has ever inspired me. I know
Mm,
that the one I drew from the most when I was younger was a series called Mare, but that was just because I had the entire manga and liked it. Same with the series called Nagima. Both of them I liked the art
mm,
styles of, and I would pull from them a lot. Once I got older, I tried to vary what I learned from, and I can't say I pull from a specific series, but the biggest one
mm,
that came to it is definitely fantasy. I very much like fantasy,
mm.
so fantasy styled mangas and anime are the ones I like to pull and learn from.
Yeah, I can tell that you like fantasy because like some of your character designs from like your homework submissions are pretty like these are definitely like fantasy characters. You have like cat ears. So, yeah, I think definitely I can see the inspiration from that. So, I guess that leads me to my next question. Now that you're part of the LTDM community, how has your approach to drawing evolved since joining the program?
I've definitely gone from when I look at a picture, I don't really look for, I want this picture because I like the look of it. I go into a picture to look at how the picture has been formed and what I can learn from it and how I might be able to use that on my own. I look at a face, I don't just see a nice looking character face. I see, okay, this is where you would start the head. This is where the chin's angle starts. This is how you would make it smaller or bigger based off how far away the camera is. Stuff that I just
Mm,
never really noticed as much before when it was just, I like the look of this. I want to try and draw this kind of
mm.
thing.
Is it fair to say that you've struggled a bit with like drawing in perspective then before you joined the course?
Before I joined the course, if the character wasn't facing on their side or their front, I probably couldn't even draw them very decently. There's
Yeah.
a few times I did, but most of the time it looked very weird.
Yeah, yeah, that's a lot of thing beginner. We notice that a lot of beginners definitely struggle with drawing in perspective, like 1 point perspective, 2 point, 3 point. Those are the basic perspectives that you usually find in manga, usually. But like drawing characters in different angles as well, different shots. It's definitely something that requires a lot of trial and error, because like being able to consistently draw characters in different scenes is actually isn't as easy as you guys may think. Like even if you're drawing the same character, being able to draw them again and again in different scenes is actually something that so many beginners struggle with. I guess that next question would be, how has being part of the community helped you grow as an artist, Kuro?
Well, I've definitely gotten faster at drawing, and I feel less worried when I go to draw something. It's no longer, can I draw this thing? It's more, how much do I need to learn from this? What do I need to learn that I don't already know? As an artist before, it'd be, I'd look at a picture and I wouldn't even attempt it because the pose was too confusing, the hair was too confusing, or whatnot. And now when I look at those, it's not less of a confusing, it's more of a, how many of these shapes or structures do I not understand? I can go and ask other people how they would go about it. And it definitely gives me a lot more security, I don't think is the right word, but confidence in being able to draw something.
So you've consulted like your classmates, I guess, or course mates on like ask their feedback on your work, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And like, do you feel like they definitely give you a lot of good feedback that has helped you?
I have found that they brought on angles I never even thought to look at a picture, or even ideas on how to find something that I would have never even thought of before. And the biggest thing when I do digital art, features I didn't even know my program had. But that's my fault for never looking into it.
Yeah, that's good. So you have course mates who like work digitally as well. I think like Courtney works digitally, and I think some students also work on digital. So yeah, that's good that you've managed to like pick up some tips and pick up a lot of good feedback from your course mates. So speaking of like that dynamic between you and your course mates, like do you feel like supported at least by them? Do you feel like, okay, I'm not feeling as confident about this work that I did? Do you feel like you can like approach them and feel like, oh, I won't be judged, I know they'll like give me good feedback? So yeah, do you
Feedback
feel
is
like it's a safe
definitely the right word.
space?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does feel safe, but feedback's definitely the right word. When I used to draw, I could ask people about my stuff, and the answers I would get is, it looks good, or I don't like it. If I go into course and ask someone, they can say, okay, your character looks fine, but your hair is not at the right angle for this. Or maybe you should try lengthening something. Maybe you made this too long. They can actually give me detailed feedback versus a very basic opinion that is either just they're trying to say it because they don't know what to say, or they just try to say it because they might like it, but they can't offer any insight on it.
Okay, that's good. That's good that the course that you've managed to like foster that sort of relationship with the rest of the course. So with the rest of the students in the course. So we're glad that we've managed to like provide that space for you. So moving on like from your course mates now, talking about the mentors, what do you think are the most significant lessons you've learned from the mentors in the course?
The biggest thing I think I've learned from the mentors in the course is that when you start with the basics, it feels like you're not going anywhere, but you are. They can show you that you might feel you're not doing right. They'll tell you, and they'll show you that you are doing right. You're just not there yet. You haven't had enough time to learn how to draw like they do. They don't put you down for not knowing how to draw. They'll sit there and show you what you need to do to get better. And a big thing with mentors is that is what I feel they should be doing. They shouldn't be telling you you're wrong and then just telling you to do it again. They should be showing you why you're wrong and what you can do to get better.
Like working with our mentors, were there any moments where you felt like, oh, like I got this wrong? Like the mentors will definitely like see how bad this is, and has that ever like daunted you or like discouraged you from like criticism, I guess, from the mentors, is what I'm asking.
Personally, I've never felt discouraged to actually show my work and whatnot. I can understand why someone might feel like that, but no, I don't feel like the mentor is going to get overly reactive to it. I feel like they're going to analyze it like they should. Every mentor I've seen, they are different in how they approach things. Steph is definitely, for example, a lot more I wouldn't say nice as much as his way he speaks is definitely a lot nicer than say Naoyazawa, but Naoyazawa is giving us from the more corporate side where it's like, if you take this in, this is what they're going to say about this. Not that you're doing bad, but this is what they're going to ask you in a business situation. Steph Moore is coming up and he's talking about like, I like your design, I like how this is going, your style looks nice. They are very different forms of feedback, but I do like having both sides and not just one.
That's good. Like, our pro Japanese mentors can definitely like give the students feedback on how your work would be received, or what the reception to your work would be in the manga industry. Like, if you were to show this to an editor, like, this is what they would say. So it's great that you could get that kind of feedback from our mentors, and I hope it's definitely helped you a lot, especially with what you said with Yazawa Sensei giving you the more like corporate industry insider kind of feedback. So yeah, do you think that kind of feedback has definitely changed the way you approach like making your art and like making your manga, I guess?
I wouldn't say that it's changed how I approached making it, but it definitely gave me a better insight of something that I no longer would have thought about or never would have thought
Mm,
about, such as I go into design a character and I might like want to make my character very fancy looking and whatnot. I can
yeah.
take this to say now or even Steph or any other mentor that we have and they'll be okay, this character is very designed, but you're overcluttering, you're making too much, you can't draw your attention to the right thing. If you were to draw this in a scene 20 times in a single scene or single arc, would you be able to continuously draw this? Is this too much for your character? They
Yeah.
bring in insights that go past I like my character or I like my idea towards this is how people are going to look at it. This is how you're going to need to actually be able to redraw this constantly. And
Yeah.
that's a big insight that I don't think a lot of people are going to even think about when they're designing a character, for example, or even designing a story.
Actually, like, speaking of what Kuro just said, like, the feedback that our Yazawa sensei gave him about like, would you be able to like redraw this character like over and over again throughout the chapter with the same amount of detail? That's actually something that in the manga industry that they call line economy. So that's one important factor that you need to consider when designing your characters. It's line economy is basically how easy it is for you to draw your character, how easy and how efficient it is for you to draw your character over and over again. Because that's something when especially when you're working like on a series, that's definitely something a lot of pro mangakas have to keep in mind because they're on such tight schedules. So they need to be able to draw their characters as quickly and efficiently as they can and still be consistent as they do it. So yeah, that's definitely something that still you need to consider this in the future if you're planning on like publishing, if you're planning on like making a manga series, then that's definitely something that you need to keep in mind actually. So yeah, that's great that you've managed to learn that and pick that up from our mentors, Kuro. Okay, so moving on to the next question, guys. So, if you look at the screen, this is actually one of the main characters, I believe, from Kuro's one shot. And Kuro, if I'm right, like, could you tell us about the one shot that you're working on and like what inspired the story for your one shot?
Well, this is not one of my characters for my one shot. It is a character that I do plan to draw after the one shot a lot for our
Okay.
stories.
Okay.
But I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? My brain just blanked for a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, could you tell us more about the one shot that you're working on and like what inspired the story for your one shot?
So the one shot that I am working on is a very basic day in the life of adventurers in the world I want to create. Because when you
Mm,
go to work on your first story, as we were told, you don't want to go big and have no will to completely finish it. Because you might think that, oh, I just want to write something that has, I don't know, 10 chapters in it. And then you realize that a single chapter can take you a lot longer, and then you might just be overwhelmed. The biggest thing they want you to do is make a single one shot, a single chapter story. So what I chose to do is I took a character I've written about a lot. I'm going to go back to a time when they were younger. I'm going to just show a basic adventure from before they were this big, well-known adventurer. And that's what I want to do. They're just going to go. They've been given an assignment. And with a couple of people that randomly group up in an adventure, they're going to go and conquer their goal. It's a simple
Right.
goal of just, we need to get rid of some people in the area. Well, let's go figure out how to do that.
Great. So you're basically focusing more on what happens before they go into the adventure, is what I'm getting. Like,
In the story I want to write them in later, they're a well-known
yeah.
adventurer. I'm going back to before
Okay.
they were well-known,
Okay.
kind of thing.
Okay. So this is reminding me a bit of like Freehand, if you guys Freehand Beyond the Journey, if you guys are familiar. But like with Freehand, the synopsis for that is like basically what happens after they've accomplished the goal, after they've completed the adventure. So yeah, it's also another interesting concept, and I think Kuro's concept is definitely interesting because I don't think I've heard of a story like that, basically like who they were before they were famous adventurers. So that's definitely interesting. I know other people would definitely find it interesting. So great, that's great. And like, what do you also, you didn't really mention like what exactly inspired you to pursue that kind of story?
Well, when I first came in, my idea was I wanted to go and write a manga. I wanted to do an entire manga. It was supposed to be short. Then, when I actually started taking the course and then talking with now Yazawa especially and Rena Sensei, both of them really brought up the idea of making it more manageable. So, rather than completely removing characters I wanted to work on, I decided to just go back to an earlier time with one of them. This just was because of the course saying that you should try a one-shot. The biggest thing I remembered from that is that One Piece started as a one-shot. I have read the original one-shot for One Piece, and the way it started was Luffy getting into the situation where he starts in the barrel. And the one-shot is why he's in the barrel. And that's where I got the idea of, why not just do pre-story? Something that is easily, if you don't end up using it, you don't need to.
Definitely. A complete story like that could be perfectly contained in like one single chapter. Definitely. And if you decide to like expand on that, then you could easily do so even after you've done your one shot. So hopefully that might be something you might want to look into as well. And I know you're definitely thinking about it. So yeah, moving on. Speaking of your one shot, I noticed that you've been drawing similar OCs for your homework submission. So could you tell us more about these characters? Are we going to see these characters in your one shot manga?
Yes, actually the one you have on screen right now, Mai. She is the main character in the one-shot that I wanted to write from. So going back to a time before her eye was scarred up, for example. So get to see her as a younger character, more ambitious and definitely more impulsive. Compared to when I want to draw these characters in their actual story, she'll be older and much more level-headed and calm kind of character.
Okay, so what is she basically? I'm also curious, like hybrid or
Beastmen in my setting, which are basically Kemono Mimi, the ears and tails of animals, or maybe a few more features. And she is part fox. So
part fox. Okay, so she's like, I'm also getting like a bow detail there from the back. So she's an archer.
Yes, she is an archer, and she has some magic.
She has magic. Okay, that's great. Like what? So what? She's the protagonist of your one shot.
Yes, she is one of the four.
One of the four protagonists. Okay, so one of the four of the party of protagonists in your one shot, definitely. Okay, gotcha. And do you have plans to serialize this story, or perhaps expand on it, work on more, or maybe work on more one shots in the future?
I will definitely be working on more one-shots now that I've learned how it's a much easier way to conquer ideas. As for the one-shot, when I work on and finish it, I would prefer to likely either use this as it could be a flashback in a larger story, or it might just be something that is a nice little once to read. I could make more one-shots of just small adventures, because the biggest idea is it's a small adventure. Any adventurer could go on a simple, small adventure at any time. they get a commission from someone, they get a commission from a board or a kingdom. The adventure doesn't have to be grand. It can just be a small adventure where they get to learn something, or they might just get to meet some people, learn more about their world, learn more about other nations in it.
It could be like an episodic thing, I guess. So like each chapter would be like a new like adventure, or like meeting new characters and going on another adventure and another adventure. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of potential there with serializing the story, definitely. Okay, so I'm glad to know that you have like plans on expanding this in the future. Would definitely love to see that. Okay, so moving on, if you could give your younger self some advice before you started drawing, what would it be?
Oh, the biggest one is don't stop. I ended up stopping a bit after high school because I got a little bit. My medical didn't go in the best situation after I got out of high school, and I had to work a lot to be able to pay for it. My insurance was no longer covered. I ended up having to work a lot more trying just to pay for my medicine, and I just lost the will to draw for a while. It's not impossible to recover from that, but it did suck. But another thing I would say is don't be afraid to try new things. I was very afraid to ever draw something I had never seen before because I just didn't know how to do it, and it would take hours to figure it out. Doing this course, doing something you don't know how to do multiple times, you learn how to do it a lot faster very quickly.
Yeah. And do you think you could say that now you're not as hesitant to like dive into challenges? Like if you see something that's challenging, okay, this is gonna be hard. You're not as hesitant now to like, okay, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Honestly, it feels more fun to do a challenge at this point. It's less
Yeah.
worrying about can I do it, more worrying about how to do it. And it feels a lot
Mhm.
better after taking it on so much because I look back at some of the pictures you've been showing today and I didn't even realize how different my stuff looked until just now, kind of thing.
Mm. So I think this is also like a good opportunity for you to like look back and reflect on like how far you've come. And I guess right now that's also something I want to ask you about. Like, how do you feel about your progress so far compared to now?
I definitely, because of medical, feel like it could be faster, but I don't feel that it's going bad. I feel like
Mm.
I get frustrated at times, as anyone would when they're learning something, but I feel like I am moving forward. I don't feel like I'm stepping backwards because I don't know something. I'm just more
Mm.
of, okay, I don't know how to do this. Let's look up how to do it. I've learned how to do it. I go back to draw something I had like that a week or two later. Oh, I didn't even have to think about it. I didn't even realize I was having a problem with that before. Why was I so afraid of this when I was younger? Was I so afraid of this even about a year ago? Kind of thing.
Mm. Mm, that's good. That's good. I think that's also one thing that a lot of beginners need to remember is that like even if you feel like your progress is slow, or even if you feel like you're not improving as fast as you would like, you're still improving. Like it's better that you're making small progress or any progress at all than making no progress at all. So I think that's definitely also a matter of mindset, where if one day you feel like, oh, I'm not good enough because I'm so slow, it's not, you don't, you have to think about it in a different way. Like you have to think that, okay, I'm slow at this, but I'm making progress. That's the thing. You have to focus on the bright side of things. Like, if this is something that you enjoy and you're slowly but surely making progress, then it's definitely worth doing. I, bel I think that's something that a lot of our students believe as well, because they're working towards improving their art with our course. So, moving on to the next question. For you, Kuro, um, what advice would you give for people watching who are likely experiencing similar challenges as yourself, and what would you like to share with them?
If you're experiencing challenges and whatnot, obviously, if the challenge is something you can work towards fixing, please do try to work towards it. Don't not take care of your health like I did and then get into the situation. But if you feel like you are being challenged, don't always take that as you can't figure it out. Take that as you just need more time. Take it as you need to figure out why you can't figure it out. And once you do figure it out, it will be easier the next time. Just because you hit a wall now does not mean that wall is impossible to climb, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, don't be intimidated by things that you would initially believe would be difficult for you. I mean, you'll never know until you try. So, yeah. Okay, guys, I think now we'll open the floor to questions from our viewers. If you have any questions for Kuro, now's definitely the time to ask, guys, while he's still here. I mean, this is the opportunity. Now's your chance to ask him about anything you might be itching to ask him. So, yeah, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, guys. So good. Any questions for Kuro, guys? Let us know. Okay. Okay, Movo asks, so when you copy, do you freehand or trace?
I mostly freehand. I didn't actually even try tracing until the course told me to try it. Tracing I used to think meant that it was being too easy, you were cheating. Tracing does not mean you're cheating. Tracing should never be used to get your final idea, but it should be used to figure out how to shape something. And so when I go to learn something new, I trace, but more often than not, I still freehand because that's how I learned.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of stigma around like copying and especially tracing, because like I've definitely seen some like I've gone on Reddit, artist Reddit forums at least, and I've seen a few comments for where people like post their fan art and they're just like, you just trace this. So yeah, I think there's a lot of stigma around tracing when it comes to like learning how to draw. I mean, it's definitely fine if you want to learn, then it's definitely encouraged that you trace. In fact, like a lot of some of our mentors even encourage you guys to like copy or trace just so you could get a feel of how the artist drew this and like why they drew that, and also like to get you in the groove of it, get you more familiar with how to draw anatomy or how to draw poses, basically. So yeah, I've had people tell me it's okay to trace. It's definitely okay to trace if you're still learning, definitely. But it's not encouraged. Like if you want to like put out an art and like monetize that art or sell that art, and it's really just something that you traced from the internet, then that's not okay. That's not ethical. So yeah, if you're learning, if you're practicing, definitely trace and copy from references. Okay, another question from Gordon. How would you draw a character that vaguely resembles a human and another angle of the character is something unlike what you have ever seen before?
Judging by your question, I'm assuming, say, if you have, well, a kimono Mimi and their tail, you wouldn't know how to draw their tail from different angles. I would say try to find something that looks similar online, but if you can't find something, look for a real life equivalent. For example, say if you're drawing something that has a arched or hunched back or whatnot, you might not be able to find something that's a picture of it, but you can probably find something that has a similar shape to it. You look at the shape of it and how it's shaped, and then you can use that to find different angles, or you can even just find something that is that. So if you want to draw an animal character, they have an animal tail, go look at the actual animal. You might be able to figure it out from there.
Great. I hope that answered your question, Gordon. So if you have a follow-up question to that, feel free to drop it in the comments as well. Okay, so but in the meantime, like we'll move on. Another question from Esley. How do you feel about your art now?
Better, but it definitely needs work. But that's also something I'm pretty sure everyone thinks for the longest time. Your art's never going to feel perfect to you because you've seen every step of the process. It's more important on, are you satisfied with your art?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely more important. Brian, what is your main manga story about? I think Kuro already mentioned this a bit before, but yeah, if you feel free to like re-summarize, I guess, what your main manga
Um,
story is.
if they mean the one shot, that one was
Yeah.
just about a short adventure in the day of adventures in that world. If they mean the one I want to draw with the characters after that, that
Mm.
one's more about a lot of characters finding themselves in this weird alien place and having to work together despite characters being from different nations or even just having very stereotyped views of each other because of what they are. The characters are not
Mm.
meant to immediately like each other. They're meant to learn that people are not that different, or more meant to learn how to work with people that are different, eventually leading
Mm.
towards their common goal.
Mm. So hopefully that piqued your interest, Brian. Definitely looking forward to Kuro's like one shot once he like gets once he finishes it. So okay, John asks if I'm trying to learn how to draw, how do I not get frustrated so easily? Because after I observe an artist I like and I go to draw, I get frustrated.
Uh, Sorry, my did not catch that. My mic cut out for a second.
Yeah, I can repeat it. So, John asks if I'm trying to learn how to draw, how do I not get frustrated so easily? It's because, like, after I observe an artist I like, I go to draw, but then I get frustrated.
Um, the biggest thing I would say is if you're trying to draw from a different artist and you're trying to get the exact same or you're just not satisfied with it, the biggest thing that I found is don't expect to get the same thing. No matter how much
Mm.
I tried to copy, I can get something that looks similar, but your own style will start taking hold very early in your drawing, whether or not you notice it. And trying to draw someone else's style usually leads to inconsistencies or it might not look quite right. Mostly work on just finishing what you were drawing. Don't get frustrated at it because it doesn't look right. Finish it up and see how it looks at the end. There are times that I have finished and saying it didn't look the same as the other thing I was trying to draw, but it still looked satisfactory or it looked like it was a good thing. That's how you start to figure out what your style looks like. Because you might have different you may not be able to draw the same way because your eyes are different. You might not be able to draw the same way
Mm.
because you have a bit of a different way of doing a line. And that's where the frustration usually comes from is you're not the same person. You're not a computer. You're not printing it. You're
Yeah.
going to have inconsistencies.
Yeah. And also, like, no two people are the same. Like, you can't be able to completely mimic an artist's style, like unless you're AI, of course. But yeah, you're a human at the end of the day, and how you interpret like other people's work will obviously show in your own work. So yeah, we're not all the same, and we're all different. And yeah, okay, another from Goofed. How do you approach writing the story of your one-shot manga, and how do you feel whenever you write or think of an idea about it?
For my one shot, the way I started writing it, ironically, is I just had a silly idea of two people sliding down on an icy mountain on a shield. That was honestly where it started. Not the best idea to
Mm.
start with, but I went with the okay, I want to have this scene. How can I have this scene? Then I went to okay, this needs to be have an end. Where do I want this to end? Made the end. So I have a good scene I want, I have an end. Then I went and be okay, why would they be here? And I just kept building a piece by piece. Rather than going in a straight order, I went to the parts I wanted and knew first, and then built up how it got to that point and why it got to that point.
Yeah, that's actually something that pros do. I've found like that's a piece of advice I've found on on other Reddit forums or like manga artist Reddit forums where they like okay like draw or iron out the most interesting scenes first, like the scenes that you would feel like happy or excited drawing and like laying out, and then you can um, fill in the blanks in between and try to connect them so that they flow easily in as one plot, one linear plot. So yeah, that's definitely another way to go about like writing your stories for your manga, for your one shot, guys. Okay. So Gordon asks, where can we follow your art? Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Yeah, feel free to plug your socials, Kuro.
I can do that. Currently, I only really use Twitter. I
Mm,
didn't even. I am not big on social media because I grew up at a time before we had it, is the problem.
mm,
I've gotten used to social media in more recent years, so I only really use Twitter right now because that's where everyone told me to do it when I started redoing art. But let me
mm,
place that here.
definitely. So, you post your art on Twitter.
I post ones that I feel are done, or at least
Okay.
decent enough. Yes.
Okay. So feel free to go follow Kuro, guys. He's gonna plug it in the chat now. So if you're eager to like follow his journey, like check out more of his art, then you could follow him on Twitter. Okay. Got it. Got it. Do you want to send it in the chat or
I did at least, or did it
okay.
not? Or do you mean this one? My bad.
Yeah. The YouTube chat. Oh, okay, got it. Got it. I'm gonna link this then. Give me a minute, guys. Okay.
That's weird. I had sent it on my side, but
Yeah.
oh well.
Kuro's Twitter. Feel free to follow it, guys. Give him a shout out. Give him a follow. Okay. Movo asks, how do you go about storyboards, making your storyboards? Have you made storyboards yet?
I have made a few storyboards. I'm not the most experienced with storyboarding, but rather than just figuring out how to do storyboards, I draw the same guidelines I would use to start a drawing. So I draw the, I think they're called wooden doll styled stuff, and try to build off of that to build it. But generally, I try to find for what I want for the page, what's the big scene? What's the thing I want them to see the most? And how do I build around it? So there's a lot that goes into this, as I've found out. And just putting everything on the page because you want it on that page is not the right idea, as I learned very quickly. So storyboarding, it became, can I fit all of this into a page reasonably? And how much am I going to need to get the idea across without rushing it? Is how I've started the storyboard, which went from, I can do this in 12 pages to, I can do this in 24 pages maybe, kind of thing.
So like you struggle a bit with like trying to contain the story, I guess, like because I think that's a lot of thing some beginners we've talked to struggled with. Like they get started, okay, I think I could manage this in like 12 pages, but as they're working on their storyboard, like they add in more details, add in more exposition, and then add in more interesting things they feel like could work, and then they end up having like a much longer story than they initially planned. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely like it's with storyboarding, it's a lot of it takes a lot of planning and a lot of organization.
The
Like
biggest thing I did
yeah.
is I wrote out what I wanted to happen first, which looked short in text form. And that's when you learn why mangas start with one shots very quickly, because what looks short in text form or in your mind is
Yeah.
much longer in drawing form.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the rule of thumb Yazawa sensei gave us is like for one line of dialogue, that's one speech bubble. So if you have like a lot of dialogue in your like in the story that you have in mind, then if you want to make a one shot, then you might want to reconsider like uh toning it down a bit on the dialogue, definitely, depending on like how long you want your one shot to be. But typically one shots are usually like 16 pages, 16 to 24 pages, I think. Yeah, especially when if you're planning on joining like manga competitions. A lot of manga competitions that are open to foreigners require you to submit a 16 page one shot. So being able to make a story that could fit into 16 pages will definitely be a challenge for a lot of beginners. But yeah, do you feel like that's something you've been struggling with making your one shot?
Honestly, yes, because we were told to do 16, and I asked,
Yeah.
like, very quickly into it, like, are we allowed to do more? And they said, try to keep it within a reasonable amount, which is how I ended up getting to 24. I thought that a simple story with, like, only 2 free key action points would be easy to fit into 16. No. No, it's not. Or maybe it is, but it's not easy for me, kind of thing.
So yeah, you're still currently working on how to like reconcile that, I guess. But yeah, that's the thing that's also practice, I guess, if you want to be able to like make manga, is you need to be able to know how to space out your stories, because with a lot of mangas I've noticed, at least, and when I've looked at manga competitions and what people submit to these manga competitions, like silent manga edition especially, like silent manga edition doesn't require you guys to put in dialogue for your submission, because it's a silent manga, so your submissions shouldn't have any dialogue. And that's also one way that the organizer wants to, I don't know, try to gauge like your capability to show and not tell, because like manga is all about showing and not telling. So you won't see like, in manga you don't see a lot of like really heavy text or exposition in manga. So that's definitely something that you'll have to practice when, if you want to become an aspiring mangaka. Okay, so another question from John, like, how do I use inspiration properly when I want to add it to my work or ideas for stories? Like, if I like this one thing an anime story has, or a character or scene.
Making it your own, I guess, is the biggest problem. Taking the same idea from someone isn't necessarily bad. I mean, how many shows are just about finding the damsel's been captured, you got to go save them, or maybe you need to go and kill the big bad evil. These are very common ideas that are used. When you do it, you want to make sure it's your own. Don't just take it or word from word. Make it so maybe you just like the idea of like, oh, they need to go fight the big bad, but then you find out, oh no, the big bad's part of your party or something. There you go, you've changed it a bit. Or if you're trying to make a character, you like how a character looks, but you don't want to have the exact same character. You can change up stuff on the character to make them look different, sure, but is that something that you find appealing? What do you find appealing about this character? Maybe you like this or that, and then say, oh, I like this character, but I also like this character. Maybe I like these things on this one and these things on that one. Put them together, you have a newer character kind of look, kind of thing. There are many times I've looked at Isekai, especially, where it's like the main character looks like very similar to the last one you saw it from, or from another one. And that is a case of it, where it's these are different characters, but they all look very similar, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I hope that answered your question, John. And also, being able to like, you also have to remember like a lot of the popular stories that we have today, especially a lot of the popular like shows, anime, manga series that we have today, they've all been inspired by something. And a lot of these pro mangakas have managed to make it their own, because like, one, they've developed their art style, and also they've developed their storytelling skills, to a point where they could like get published in publishing houses like Shonen Jump. So yeah, it's definitely something. Being able to make something as your own is uh, takes a lot of reading manga, I guess. That's a piece of advice that our mentors tell our students, is if you're having trouble finding inspiration, then you have to read a lot of manga. Read it, because manga is your best learning resource when it comes to like learning how to draw manga, because when you read manga you get to see how pros tell their stories, how they present their stories, and every manga artist has different ways of like presenting stories. Like, not there are no two like pro mangakas who have the same art style or have the same like storytelling techniques. So yeah, even if they're like making manga for the same genre, like shonen, for if they're making shonen manga, like there's a there's no like two shonen mangas that are the same, basically. So yeah. Another question is from Steve. I think we mentioned this earlier. Do you have a plan to get your manga serialized? I think you mentioned that you do in the future.
I'd very much like to.
Yeah.
I plan to at least try to publish it somewhere, be it on just a online site or even in book form.
Yeah, good, good. That's nice. That's nice to hear. It's great that you're open to that. Okay, Gordon, favorite anime character. Okay.
Uh, my favorite character that's anime like is from a game, but my favorite character in an anime that would be Kuon from the Utaware Rumono games. Or Utaware
Mm.
Rumono anime, not games. Wrong one.
Okay.
I played the
Okay.
games, yes, but the anime would be that one.
Good. Good. That's nice. Okay. Scripting first and then storyboard. At what point do you write dialogue?
So when I went to script scenes and whatnot, sometimes dialogue would filter in, maybe a quip or maybe something that I want the character to say or just be something key line that they use. Dialogue didn't really fill in till the very end, after I'd figured out what kind of scenes I want. I thought
Mm.
about the panels and the scenes, and then I started to think about dialogue towards the very end. This isn't necessarily the right way to do it. I've seen people that had their dialogue scripted from the moment they started, before they even thought about scenes. So
Yeah.
it's really down to which one do you feel flows the best for you
Yeah.
in the process.
Yeah, definitely. What flows best for you and what works for you is basically how pros do it. Like I've seen some pros like Hirohiko Araki, like the mangaka for JoJo. He writes his scripts, like not a full on script, but he like writes his dialogue for a chapter down first before he gets into the storyboards, but that's because that works for him. But like Kuro said, like you could like as you're making the storyboards, you could like write your dialogue as you're doing that. It's really up to you what you feel is the best process for you and what gets your like creative juices flowing and what gets your mind going. So yeah, there is no right way or tried and true way of doing it because it's really all up to the artist at the end of the day. Okay, I think that's it for the question, guys. Thank you so much for all of the questions. I hope Kuro and I helped answer any of your concerns or any of your questions. So also to Kuro, thank you so much for entertaining all of our questions and taking the time to sit down with us and like have a discussion. We really appreciate you coming on to this live stream to share your journey, and I think it was a great conversation and I personally learned a lot from it, and I know our viewers have as well. Guys, if you learned something, if you got a few like helpful tips from Kuro, then feel free to sound off, say thank you. And yeah, thank you again, Kuro, for coming on to the live. It's been great. And if you guys didn't know, or if you're just tuning into the live, or if you missed out on this detail during the live, Kuro Kiran is actually one of our students in our one shot manga drawing program. And yes, we have a one shot manga drawing program if you didn't already know from our channel. It's a course where our goal is to empower more aspiring manga artists. And we've been working with students through our one shot manga drawing program membership these past few months. And right now, here are some artworks from our student Amser, and Amser is another one of our students who started with us last year. He's finished our other manga basics slash character design course, and this was his work back in October last year. And now that he's learned all the fundamentals, he's been focusing on improving his anatomy and character design skills. And looking at his progress in May of this year, you can definitely see the results. And he's also currently working on the storyboards for his one shot manga. And here's what the rest of our students also had to say. We have Garrett, who also joined our course last year with the goal to finally be able to tell his story through manga. So he's already had this story brewing in his mind before he joined our course, and now he's working towards being able to actually make it into a manga. So this is Garrett's original character from his manga. This is what he draw back. This is how he drew his OC back in October last year, and now this is his progress in May. And in just 8 months later, you can see that his anatomy's improved. He's clearly been practicing with drawing more dynamic poses and scenes, and this is what he had to say about the course. So I feel like I've improved a lot since the beginning. I'm also glad to set up a lot of connections with a lot of students who are on the same journey as I am. And we have another student, Eduardo. He's one of the students who actually had experience participating in manga competitions before. He joined the silent manga audition and he didn't win, but he still got feedback for his submissions, which is a great thing about silent manga audition. Even if you don't win a prize or anything, like if you submit something for the silent manga audition, they will always give you feedback no matter what. So yeah, and that feedback helped Eduardo realize that he needed to work on his anatomy and character drawing skills, and in just 2 months he's improved a lot. He's experimenting with more dynamic poses, and he's also in the middle of working on his one-shot manga. And this is a drawing of his. This drawing of his in April is actually a character from his upcoming one shot, and this is what he had to say about his progress since joining our program. I reached a new level of detail and characterization, learned more about backgrounds and how to be more creative about doing things against a deadline. The members always give way the members always give way better feedback to my works than I would, and they genuinely want us to do a good job. Okay. And next we have our student Courtney. Courtney joined us this year because she wanted to learn how to make manga, and in just 5 months she's gone from this to this. And in this recent submission from May, you can see her scenes have more depth and she's venturing more into detailed background work. And this is what she had to say about her experience in the course. I like the sense of community and friendliness this group has fostered among itself and its members. My favorite part of being in this program is the privilege of getting critiques from mangaka instructors who have first-hand experience in this field, and being able to converse with them and have them critique my work has given me a better understanding of what I should and shouldn't do. So we actually interviewed Courtney a few weeks ago during one of our previous lives on this channel, so maybe after this live you can go and check it out. Okay, so now that you've heard from our students, I have a question for you guys. So you're here because you want to learn how to draw manga, right? You want to improve your art and feel more confident, correct? So sound off in the chat if I'm right, if this sounds familiar to you, if you relate to this. Yeah. I'm getting reactions from the chat. Definitely, we have some people definitely relate to this. C, Goat says C. I think that's yes. Yes, definitely. Okay, so would you rather do it yourself, or would you rather have a proven path to success? And you've seen our students' results, you've read how happy they are with the community and guidance from our mentors. So the question now is, do you want in to type I want in the chat if this is something that you're interested in, if this is something that you definitely want to do. You want a proven path to success when it comes to like improving your skills and comes to like wanting to learn how to draw manga. Yeah, definitely type in I want in. Mobo says I want in. Yes. Anyone else? Sound off in the chats. I see Travis. Hi, Travis. Goku Right Attorney. I triple one in with a cherry on top. I like the enthusiasm. Great. Callan says I want in. John says I want in. Jennifer says I want in. Great. I'm seeing a few people definitely want in. So definitely sound off. DeWillis for sure. Okay, sound off in the chat, guys, because if you want in, if you want to make your time doing art more meaningful and more productive, then our One-Shot Manga Drawing Program membership is for you. We're on a mission to accelerate your growth, all while having fun learning together, and you will have amazing pro mangaka mentors to guide you through your journey in our course. So presenting our first mentor, Nao Yazawa. She's a professional Japanese manga artist with over 30 years of experience. She's also the illustrator of the iconic manga turned anime known as Wedding Peach. So if you've heard of this, the 90s anime Wedding Peach. Now you know Yazawa Sensei was the creator for the manga for that. And she's also released her own how to draw book, and she also teaches how to draw manga in a vocational school in Nakano, Japan. So yes, Yazawa Sensei teaches at a manga school in Nakano. And we have our second mentor, Rena Saya, who is also another professional Japanese manga artist, and she's been in the industry for about 20 years already, and she also teaches at a manga school in Tokyo. She's worked with different writers and worked as an artist for different writers in her career. So yeah, and under the guidance of our pro Japanese manga mentors, you will learn basic drawing foundations, advanced drawing techniques, how to ink and color with Copics, how to design your own character for your manga, and how to produce your one-shot manga from start to finish. And once you get into the course, what's in it for you? So you will, what can you expect? So you will have lifetime access to self-paced training videos, Facebook group and messenger group chat, and live Zoom sessions 2 to 3 times a week with our student success team and mentors. Yes, we will be having live Zoom sessions with our mentors 2 to 3 times a week. So we'll be doing it pretty regularly. So you will have plenty of opportunities to consult with our mentors for feedback on your work. So yes, and even if you can't join the lives, don't worry, we will collect your questions and artworks for critiquing beforehand, and you will have, again, lifetime access to all replays and PDF guides for each lesson. So once you're in forever, guys. And even if you just watch the replay, you'll still see your questions being answered and your artworks critiqued. Okay. So if making or drawing manga is just a hobby for you or just a passing phase, then this isn't for you, because we're not just taking in anyone. The better fit, the better the results. We want to work with aspiring manga artists who want to be empowered, people who are truly serious about learning to draw manga and are determined to make manga and put their work out there. And just so you know, we are only accepting students who are 18 years old and above. So if you fit the criteria, if you want in, here's how the process works. This program is for you if you're a beginner who wants to learn how to draw manga and start telling your own stories. You have a passion for manga and dream of getting published or winning contests with your original artwork, and you're seeking confidence in a supportive community to share your art and grow as a manga artist. So if this sounds like you, then you're invited to apply and join our one-shot manga drawing program. And there are only 12 slots left, and we're only accepting applicants who are 18 years old and above. So if you're interested, guys, now is the time. There are only 12 slots left, and we're starting the new semester this July 17. That's 10 days from now, basically. So now's your chance. We'll only take in serious applicants. So this is it. This is the moment of truth. This is your chance, guys, to apply to our program now if you haven't yet. This is, again, if you're serious about wanting to learn how to make manga, then take advantage of this opportunity and apply now, because what will you be tomorrow if you start today? So I'll leave you with this last piece of advice. Take the leap. If you're still hesitant, then we're encouraging you to still go for it if this is something that you truly seriously are passionate about. So yeah, I'm gonna be opening the floor to any more questions that you may have about the course, or maybe for Kuro if you have any follow-up questions. But yeah, opening the floor to you guys now. Okay. Okay, we have a I'm scrolling up. We have a follow-up question from Jawillis, how do you find your character motivation? I always seem to struggle with that part of storytelling. Kuro.
Generally, character motivations I've found come from wider in the plot to begin with. If your
Mm,
plot is something and the character has no tie to it, you need to figure out why they're here to begin with. So, why is their motivation to be here if they're not tied to it? Be it that they might be tied to another member of the story, or they might just be tied to it because they're there. And if they are there, do they want to stay? Do they want to run? Stuff usually
mm,
depends on what kind of story you're telling. But generally, take a look at your character and what kind of person they are, and then look at the plot and see why they would be in this plot or why they would want to get out of this plot, even. It's based
mm.
around what you're trying to write.
Yeah. I think with character motivations as well, like, um, I think you have to think of it. I think one way to help is to think of your characters as actual human beings. Like, also to try to reflect on yourself. What motivates you to go through challenges in your day to day life? And maybe you could try to take a few notes from your own like motivations and try to apply that to your characters. It always helps to think of your characters as actual human beings that you might interact with in real life. And like it's almost like getting to know a person. Like what motivates this person once you meet them? What do you feel like motivates this person to keep going through life day to day? So yeah, I think that's one way to go about it. Okay, okay. Mova the Gorgon, do you have payment plans? You can ask that during our consultation call. Definitely. Okay, will studying Japanese culture help me with my story gravitating towards Japan? I mean, if your story is based in Japan, then you'll definitely need to do research about Japanese culture if your story is based in Japan. But I find like it's definitely possible writing a story set in an entirely different like environment and culture than you're familiar with, as long as you do the research. Yeah, but if you're only a beginner, I think I recommend like starting with something you're familiar with. So maybe write a story that's set in a place that you've been to, with a culture that you're familiar with, or that has the same culture as you do. So yeah, because as beginners, like starting simple is always the way to go, especially because you have to start small, start simple before you like try to tackle more ambitious and bigger stories. So yeah, but it's only something that is possible if you do the research. So yeah. Okay. Any more questions, guys? Because we're gonna end the live in a bit, and we're gonna say bye to Kuro. So now's your chance to like um ask him your questions. My favorite anime is My Hero Academia. How would I make an inspiration of it? I know I can't make My Hero Academia, but I wanna be able to make a story like it because I like the style. Okay, Kuro.
Well, I can't speak for you personally. I would say if it's the setting you like, take from the setting. An old movie I remember, for example, Sky High, is very similar to My Hero Academia, and you can even go look at, say, old shows that have done something similar, see what they did differently. But say if I wanted to take the setting of My Hero Academia, it's a school. They all have some form of superpower because the world's given it to them. But I wanted to make it my own. Easy ways to do it would be, well, I like magic. We can do it in magic. Or why don't we take this to a different time period? You can put it more in the future, more in the past, and then you adapt out from there to get how you want to make it your own story. Or maybe it's you don't, maybe you do or do not like Deku. Maybe you would prefer Bakugo to main character. Make a very hot-headed main character, and now see how they would deal with these problems that they were given if they were put in the same situation. It's mostly just take what you like and then adapt it. Is how I would go about it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kuro. I think that's about it with our questions for today. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to the live. I hope you learned a lot from this discussion. Please sound off in the comments. Say thank you to Kuro for coming on to the live. Give him a big round of applause for coming on and sharing his story with us. Thank you so much again, Kuro. If you have any like last parting words for the live for chat, now's the time.
Honestly, what I would say is don't give up just because it's hard. If you enjoy this stuff, keep trying. I gave up for a while, but I came back and I'm quite much more enjoying it now that I've come back. The worst thing you can do is regret not trying. That's the biggest thing I would say. My health nearly took away my vision, and that made me very much nearly regret not trying. I think that is the biggest thing I can take away from it. Don't do something, don't do it just because it's hard. Regret is a lot worse than hard.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, we are going to end the stream. Guys, great words to end on. Great words to end on, Kuro. Thank you so much for that. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and see you guys in the next stream. We have another live coming up in a few weeks, so stay tuned for that. That's another thing to look forward to. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Kuro. Have a great day, guys. Bye.